Here's an overview I want you to pay attention to. So when we talk about Form 1040ES, I want you to look on the screen right now. This is what it looks like. So 1040ES actually introduces an estimated tax worksheet. So you are able to actually have a clear idea about how much taxes you owe. And I want to walk you through the estimated tax worksheets here. So everything starts with your AGI, so your adjusted gross income. So for this hypothetical example, we put 100 grand, and then so from the AGI you have to deduct your total deduction. So basically, whether you itemize or have the standard deduction is totally up to you. But for this purposes, for this example, we have itemized deduction, so amounting to 25 grand. And if you actually qualify for QBI, so qualified business income deduction, you also want to include it here, so 5 grand. So when you actually add 25 grand to 5 grand, you have 30 grand. And when you subtract this 30 grand from your adjusted gross income, you have 70 grand. Again, I'm speaking here about our hypothetical example, but you can see that the math is actually pretty straightforward in terms of what you have to subtract and when you have to add. Okay, so basically here, the tax line 4. I'm currently on line 4. So line 4 here tells you the tax your tax schedule here. So we put 15,400, and and again, on line 5 you have to put the alternative minimum tax from this form 6251. In our case, this is not applicable, and I'll explain to you how I got the 15,400 later on. Okay, and line 8 here, when you do the math, you have a 15,400, and the self-employment tax here $4,600, and so when you add the two, you are having 20 grand, so $20,000. So basically the total estimated tax for this year, again, based on our hypothetical example, we have $20,000. And line 12A, when you multiply 11C here is a 20,000. When you multiply 11C by 90%, so 20,000 by 90%, you have 18,000. And so the required annual payments based on prior year's tax, 15,000. So basically here, line 12C, you have $15,000 because you are taking the smaller of 15,000 and 18,000. So that's the first screenshot. Now I want to show you right now the tax brackets for this year. So you can see that basically here, we actually chose we qualify for 24%. I mean, sorry, 22%. Because 22%, you can see on the screen here, the 22% actually is for incomes over $47,000, which is our case here. So 22% is really what we qualify for. So when you actually do the math, you are able to understand that 22% is what's applicable to our situation here. I want to move on to the next screenshot here. So basically, income tax withheld. So I'm currently on line 13. So we have 17,500, and so when you actually subtract line 13 from line 12C, you have 2,500. Okay, and so 2,500 here is actually what you owe this year. I mean, it's actually the delta that you have to owe this year. And so on line 15, you have to send a quarter of that amount to the IRS every quarter. So this amount to 625. 2,500 divided by 4 is 625. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. So I'm showing you here on the screen here, Form 6251. This is actually the alternative minimum tax that I was actually talking about a little earlier. I wanted to show you this form so you have a clear idea what I'm talking about. So Form 6251 here, and I want to show you another one here. So this is a record of estimated tax payments. So here we are speaking about, as you can see here, when we talk about Form 1040ES, we are speaking about you making quarterly payments. So you can see that the IRS wants you to have a clear idea about the payments you have to make every quarter. So you have a payment due date on April 15th, June 17th, September 16th, and January 15th. So you have 4 dates where you can actually spread the payments of your taxes and this is kind of cool. One thing I want to say here is that when you analyze this record of estimated tax payments, you have to make sure that you always keep you have to keep good record. You have to keep proper records, because if the IRS were to audit you, you want to make sure that you have all the answers that the auditor might actually ask you. One thing I want to say here is that when you actually, it's always better to do everything electronically, so that way you have things stored instead of making paper checks. I mean, check payments. I mean, you can send check payments, not a problem here, but this requires an additional layer of record keeping that not everybody's comfortable with. Okay, so the bottom line here is that when we talk about you actually estimating your taxes, because 1040 ES is for estimated tax payments. Okay, estimated. And what I want to say here is that everything revolves around how much you paid last year. I mean, first of all, how much you made this year, how much you paid last year, and how much you already paid. So that's really that's really where the delta really comes into play. One thing I want to say also is that you always have the option to actually make payments beforehand. Like, you don't have to file this form 1040 ES before making payments. You can make payments to the IRS all year long to be able to actually save yourself from penalties or taxes or interest and so on and so forth. So, but again, everything revolves around you having a strategy when it comes to your taxes. Plus, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about Form 1040 ES. I want to give you the approach that you need to really pay attention to here. When we talk about Form 1040 ES, we really want to go a little granular in terms of understanding what really matters here in terms of all the different functionalities that we need to pay attention to. So let's really talk about this form itself. I mean, the form is actually it's a form that is used by individuals who are required to pay estimated taxes on income that is not subject to withholding. Okay, so this includes what? Self-employment income, interest, dividends, capital gains, and rental income, among others. And estimated taxes are typically paid on a quarterly basis and are used to cover the taxpayer's tax liability for the current tax year. I mean, I really showed you a little earlier the calendar, right? The 4 dates that you have to abide by, and that's really important. Now, this form is important also because you do not want to if you don't have enough money, enough tax withheld from your incomes during the year, you are exposing yourself to a series of penalties, a series of fines, a series of fees come year end, and Form 1040 ES allows you to actually avoid that. And so who really needs to file this form? Well, you have all kinds of individuals. I mean, generally, individuals who expect to owe $1,000 or more in tax for the current year, after subtracting withholding and refundable credits, are required to pay estimated taxes. And this includes what? This includes self-employed individuals. I'm speaking here about freelancers. I'm speaking about independent contractors. I'm speaking about those with significant investment income. And however, there are some exceptions to this rule. Let me give you an example. I mean, taxpayers who had no tax liability in the previous year, or who meet certain criteria for agricultural or fishing income, may not need to pay estimated taxes. That's what I was just telling you a little earlier. So when you analyze, so Form 1040 ES is actually an intersection of 3 data points: what you actually paid last year, what you made this year, and what you already had withheld, or what you already paid the IRS. But there are some people who do not need to actually file this form, regardless of how much they're making. And so you have household employers, you have higher income taxpayers, and you are able to avoid this Form 1040 ES if you increase your withholding. Because remember, everything revolves around you paying enough taxes to the IRS to make sure you are in good hands here. So this is kind of important. Let's talk about what's included in Form 1040 ES. So what I want to say here is that Form 1040 ES is pretty straightforward. And so Form 1040-ES includes 4 quarterly payment vouchers and instructions for calculating estimated taxes. And the cool thing is the vouchers can be used to make payments online, by phone, or by mail. And as a taxpayer, you can also make payments electronically through the EFTPS, the Electronic Federal Tax Payment System. And so this is kind of cool. And what I want to say here is that there are deadlines and penalties. Now, I showed you the deadlines later on. I showed you the deadlines a little earlier, but you have to really abide by those deadlines if you're trying to avoid paying penalties, okay? But I just want to remind you once again here. So we are speaking about April 15th, June 15th, September 15th, and January 15th, every single year, okay? And now there are cases where for this year, for instance, 2024, the deadline is for Form 1040 is April 17th because May 15th, it's April 17th, but it's also May 15th, 2024 for residents of Maine and Massachusetts. And so it's important to really understand that if the date falls, the due date that is, falls on a holiday or a weekend, you are able to move everything to the next business day. So bottom line here is you want to avoid penalties. So you can avoid penalties for underpayments of estimated taxes by paying at least 90% of your current year tax liability, or 100% of your previous year tax liability, 110% for high income taxpayers. Okay, so this is important. Now, if you fail to make timely payments or you underpay your estimated taxes, you could be subject to interest charges and penalties, and you do not want to have that again, because the IRS charges a pretty straightforward interest routine, which you want to really stay away from at all costs. And the bottom line here is that you have the ability to avoid that by planning your taxes ahead of time, really. Boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about the Form 1040-ES. To hear when it comes to Form 1040-ES. First of all, you want to gather your financial records. You always want to have all your data points with you. Okay, make sure you have all the necessary financial records for the year. So we are speaking about income statements, expense receipts, and any other financial documents that may be relevant to your tax situation. And you want to determine your estimated income and taxes. So we are speaking about you having a clear idea about how much you might owe. And you want to go to this year self-employment tax and deduction worksheet. I showed you when I started this show. I showed you the tax and deduction worksheet, so you have a clear idea. Everything starts with your AGI, right? Your adjusted gross income. So this is what it is, and then you have to really account for credits and also self-employment taxes. And the bottom line here is that you need to really see exactly what really applies to your situation, and especially when we talk about your ability to have a record of estimated tax payments form. And you want to record your estimated tax payments. So we are speaking about how much you already paid, how much you have paid last year, or for instance, if you have a carryover, and or if you have a carryover of a refund, and if this is applicable to you, you might have to fill out the payment voucher to make sure that, again, that you are on the right side of the law here to actually comply with your tax obligations. And the thing is, if you need to actually make a payment, you can use the payment voucher included in Form 1040-ES. And there are four payment due dates throughout the year. And one thing I want to say here is that if everything is too complicated for you, you can actually make the payments online. You don't have to do you don't have to do anything through the payment voucher. No, you can make the payment online. But again, if you're doing payment online, make sure that you have enough funds in the originating accounts. So we are speaking about the EFTPS, the electronic electronic funds transfer system. And one thing I want to say here is that make sure that you always have enough funds, and also you want to double check to make sure that your records are in the green, are in the proper zone with the IRS. Let me talk to you a little bit about making estimated tax payments using this form. Now, when we talk about making this form, you need to understand that you have flexibility. Let me just say it this way: you have flexibility. So you have four kinds of payment payment options, okay? You have online payments, you have phone payments, you have mail payments, and you have credit or debit card payments. So when I talk about online payments, you are able to do everything through the EFTPS, right? That's what I said earlier, the Electronic Federal Tax Payment System. And to use this system, you have to register online and have a bank account to make the payment from. And when we talk about the phone payments, you can actually make a phone payments using EFTPS. And this option, and the good thing is this option is available 24/7. You also can send mail payments. So mail payments, we are speaking here about checks or money orders. So here what you want to do is you want to mail in your payment vouchers with a check or money order made payable to the U.S. Treasury. And the payment vouchers include a mailing address for each payment. And also you can have a credit or debit card payments. So this is kind of fun. Now, the only thing is if you choose a credit or debit card payments, you will be charged a convenience fee by the processing company. So just be aware of that. And so when we talk about making the payments, you already know the dates, so nothing complicated here. So it's 4 times a year, okay? April 15th, June 15th, September 15th, and January 15th of the following year. So it's important to know that estimated tax payments are based on your income and expenses for the current year. So you should update your estimated tax payments if your income or expenses change during the year. So again, it's all about being as up to date as possible so that you can avoid any penalties, any fees, any sort of assessments. Okay. And one thing I want to say also is that when we talk about 1040 ES, we are speaking about federal income taxes, but you have to look at the state side of things. So what are your state income taxes? Do you have to pay taxes on your if you are, let's say, if you're a freelancer, if you are an independent contractor, what is the tax routine or the tax scheme, if you will, in your specific state? What I want to say here is that when we talk about 1040 ES, obviously we are speaking about estimated tax payments, but you are able to adjust the estimated tax payments throughout the year, really. So one thing I want to say is that it's something that has to be an ongoing process for you. And everything starts with you estimating your total income. So we are speaking about you taking everything, all right? So wages, self-employment income, interest, dividends, and other sources of income. You want to calculate your deductions and credits. So we are speaking about mortgage interest, charitable contributions, and student loan interest, as well as any eligible tax credits. You want to determine your taxable income. You want to estimate your tax liability. You want to calculate your estimated tax payments. So we are speaking about your estimated cash outflows here. And based on that, you have the chance to adjust your estimated tax payments and also to make your estimated tax payments. And again, you can actually do this through direct pay, EFTPS, as I said earlier, or a credit or debit card. And so when we talk about this form, there's some tools and resources available to help with Form 1040 ES. So we are speaking about IRS tax withholding estimator. And so basically, this is the tool that helps you determine how much you need to withhold from your paychecks or make estimated tax payments to avoid underpayment penalties. You also have a Form 1040 ES instructions. So here we are speaking about how to calculate estimated tax, how to make payments, and other important details. You can use tax preparation software such as TurboTax, such as Tax Act, Tax Slayer, H&R Block, Jason Hewitt, and so on and so forth. You have IRS Direct Pay, so you are able to pay your estimated taxes online directly from your checking or savings account. You also have the form itself. You also have tax professionals. So you have a constellation of sources that can really help you making sure that you are filing taxes properly this year. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just speaking to you about Form 1040 ES. Let's do a recap here. So I gave you the overview, the approach, the steps, and now the recap. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll speak to you another time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.